Hey, everybody, Thomas here. Today we're going to be changing out the stub shaft on the sawmill. And if you look at the sawmill, I've actually already done it, but I messed up. And I'm not afraid to show how I messed up, and it's very silly. And the indication that I was just scratching my head on is like my alignment's messed up. So if you were to look at my shaft coming off the sawmill right now into my hydraulic pump, it's not aligned. I'm like, there's something just not quite right. And I'm like, I can't figure this out. I followed all the instructions. It was literally looking me in the face from the get-go. And I didn't notice it because it was very well secured to this. I forgot a bushing. This right here, I literally did not transfer from this stub shaft to that stub shaft. It was like, it was on there. It was like, seemed like it was one solid unit. I was looking at the two, everything looked the same, and I don't know how, I just missed it. So we're gonna reshoot this entire video, and we're gonna show you how to tear this thing down from start to finish and put it back together, because I am very familiar having done this now, and this is gonna make a better video. So yes, I screwed up. Don't be like me. Yeah, so we'll just go from there. So again, when you do remove your stub shaft, make sure to remove that metal washing bearing, whatever, right there. And you can see it is in fact beveled on the inside, which will fit the tape ring here on the shaft. So, all right, let's get to taking this apart. So I've already got the shroud off of here. First things first is we are going to loosen up the hydraulic pump here, slide that over, take that belt off. We're gonna loosen up the tensioner here, take that off, or take that down, take the belt off and everything. We will then take off this bolt right here on the front. That will then remove the outer pulley there, and the whole assembly will then be able to slide off. And we'll take off the 4 bolts that are on this right here, and then we'll put our bushing back on there. But I want to take it down to parade rest because I want to show you on the inside and what to look for if you've had this failure on your sawmill. So the reason the failure occurred is the bearing in here. There's a bearing inside here. It had failed. There is a lot of movement. You can see there's movement in there. The indication was my dad was cutting on the sawmill. He heard a racket, vibrations like he's never heard before. He stopped. He called me, said, hey, something doesn't sound right. Can you come here and take a look? So I got home from work. I came and took a look. I said, crank it up. Cranked it up, heard the vibrations, I said, stop. And then we went to go looking around. And when you actually looked at this shaft, it was visibly like pointed in a downward direction because, again, the bearing inside here had failed. So then I called Timberking. I said, I don't know how bad the damage is. Let me take everything apart out here first, and then I'll reassess. When we opened up everything inside where the flex plate is, all my bushings, there's rubber bushings in there. It's a flex plate. It's allowed to flex and take out deflection. The flex plate was actually good. And then all I had to do is just change out this stub shaft section right here, which is an entire assembly from the factory. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's tear everything apart. We'll show you the inside and go from there. In the essence of time, we're gonna put on a hyperlapse to actually show how we tear everything down. Again, very simple. We're gonna move the hydraulic pump over, detension the drive belt, remove the 2 belts off of there. Then we'll take off this bolt right here. And the way to do that is you'll go to the front side of the engine, right here on the harmonic dampener. There's a nut right there. You're gonna put a ratchet on there, have one person hold on that side, and then you're gonna come to the back side here, and then you will take this bolt off. It is torqued down to 45 foot-pounds of torque. And there's also some Loctite on there, so it might take a little bit more, but that front hydraulic dampener bolt is gonna be torqued a lot higher than that. Once that's off, again, we're gonna slide the whole assembly out. Once the whole assembly is out, then I will talk about what's on the inside, and we'll put it back together piece by piece, quick and easy. right, folks, this is what the flex plate and everything looks like. Now, what I'll say is I had a grease mess in there. Once I got this on there, I did do a few pumps of grease in there, and apparently it went everywhere. So that's what I was cleaning out there at the end. But we're gonna go ahead and just kind of look at this flex plate. So if I turn on my light, you can see there are rubber bushings. These right here are little rubber bushings, and you can see, even though it's not focused, but you can see that rubber bushing there is flexing. If you had ran your sawmill with this bearing failure, you would develop a lot of heat, and a lot of heat could then go into these little bushings, these rubber bushings here, and then it would make them turn hard, and then you defeat the purpose of a flex plate. So, and looking at those are nice and clean. And inside here in the spline area, now I just added some grease in there because it said to grease the splines and everything. But yeah, inside here, you also want to make sure that your teeth are all clean and there's no gouging. And if you look at the old shaft, it's kind of hard to tell, but there really wasn't any gouging. And the new one is nice and clean as well. So again, when this arrived to me, I'm like, yes, everything's there. Well, I forgot to do that right there. Now we are good to go. Also, you'll note on this stub shaft right here, you've got a Zerk fitting on this side, and then you have a relief on this side. Now this right here is like a little spring relief. Whenever I was adding grease to this the other day, because I was really worried about there not being enough grease in here, I'm like, okay, if I grease this should lift. Well, in fact, it was coming out around the seal. So yeah, the grease that you use in this, they want you to use a high pressure, high temp grease. And what they recommend is actually a high pressure lithium type grease. Yeah, so just make sure if you don't want to put normal type grease in here, you want to make sure it's high pressure, high temp type grease, because again, there's high pressures in here, and the fact that those bearings are turning round and round as they roll, they're going to completely obliterate normal type grease. So anyways, try to go with what the manufacturer says, a high pressure lithium style grease. Okay, so the assembly, first things first, this is going to go into here. And all you want to make sure is that your Zerk fittings are horizontal. Try to do this one-handed, this is great. So there you go, so horizontal. So I've got my Zerk on the left side of the mill if you're at the operator station, and I have my relief on the right side of the mill. So that is on there. Then you will add your I think these were 3/8 inch drive, like Allen wrench style. So you go ahead and put these 4 on here. Also, you'll note the keyway. You got to make sure when you're taking this whole assembly apart that you don't lose the key. And we will show how that key goes in there in a second. Again, doing this all one-handed. And the good thing is yes, I'm happy to open this back up again because I get to look and make sure I didn't have any issues. Me having all that extra grease in there was not ideal. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. It's just going to end up in the bottom of this flex plate area. But again, by removing that big lump of grease out of there, and I know I don't need to add any more grease to it right now. And they say you're only going to give it like a pump every so often. It really, there's not a lot of documentation on how much you add grease to this or how often. And I will put in the description below kind of like what the instructions are from this Hayes flex plate assembly. All right. So I believe it's 3/8. I'm going to do a star pattern on this. I'm not going to bore y'all with that. So let me go ahead and tighten this down. I'll be right back. All right, folks. Now we're going to assemble the clutch and pulley assembly onto here. Now note, there is a keyway inside of here. And the keyway literally is just where the clutch area is. So I'm going to try put the key in. Okay, key is in. We're going to kind of match up. And it doesn't matter right now where this arm is because I can rotate the engine around, but keyway is in, or keys in the keyway on this assembly. I'm just going to slide it into the corresponding. There we go. That's fully on there. Noted with our bushing on the back. I mean, she's on there. I'm going to just give her a slight little tap. Okay, I think we're all good there. I also have a little bit of Loctite from when I put this back together. You want to make sure you get your surface pretty clean before we put the next parts on. And you also want to make sure that you're using Loctite. That didn't look good. Okay, everything's cleaned out. Again, see how this can rotate around? That's because the clutch is able to free spin and we're not spinning the actual internal shaft. Okay, next will be the pulley assembly for the hydraulic pump. Now this has to have this aluminum washer on here. I did have that. That's just a piece of aluminum bar stock that they drill a hole through. It's nothing more than a friction plate. All that does is kind of mount on the face of this bearing right here, and it just needs a hard point to mount on so that it'll spin this hydraulic pump right here. Nothing's fancy, nothing special. It's very critical though that you put Loctite on this thread locker. I use the blue stuff, which I have on my toolbox over there. So the blue stuff, if you do super heavy duty, whatever, red that requires heat, you might run the risk of hurting something. So stick with the blue thread locker. This is going to be torqued down to 45 foot-pounds of torque. In order to do that, you'll have to have someone on the backside of the engine or have a mechanism to actually hold your wrench on the backside as you tighten it up. Looking around, I don't have any more parts or pieces that I forgot, so I think we're good to go here. I'm going to get the thread locker on there and we'll film that in just a second. As you can see, thread locker is on there. I cleaned up the face here. I'm going to go ahead and gently put it in there. Again, we're using the Threadlock Blue medium strength 24-200. I'm just gonna gently, if I can find my tool, here it is. Just gonna gently tighten this down a little bit before we go to the back side. All right. Okay, Tommy's on the back side, and we're gonna go ahead and torque this down. You holding it, Tommy? There we go. That is, there again, 45 foot-pounds of torque on there. Okay, so we have torqued this down to 45 foot-pounds. We're going to let this sit for about 12 hours. But in the meantime, I have to put everything else together. This right here is your bolt that holds your clutch arm. This prevents it from spinning everything. It's nothing fancy. It's just a bolt that goes through here. I think I want it to go that direction. Yeah, probably that direction. I should have looked at that when I took it off. Okay, so once that is done, then we're going to go ahead and put this drive belt back on. And if you saw in the beginning of the video, again, this drive belt was an absolute pain to put or take off. It is a triple wide V-groove belt. You have to detension the tensioner here all the way, and I'll have to actually come back here and hammer it back down. You want this, essentially this portion right here, to be level with the saw head and everything, to give you as much room as possible. Then what we do when we work on getting this on, you essentially are going to have someone have to turn this and kind of feed it on. It's an absolute pain. There's got to be an easier way. I believe Timberking now is going to individual belts. They'll put like 3 individual belts on there. That would be much easier than doing a triple wide. I will say that is very difficult to put on there. Also, I don't know if I showed this, I think I did, but the thread locker used is the medium strength thread locker. I wouldn't go anything above that because you don't want to over torque trying to get it off and mess up the bolts and stuff on the drive trains, the crankshaft of the diesel. Okay, so I'll put this back on. I'll get the drive belt back on. Then we'll get the hydraulic pump and belt back on. Initially, when I took this off, I made little marks here so I know what the tension was previously. So I will slide this over so that it's lined up with the center of this bolt here. Just a little tip, trick and everything. Try to mark things prior to so you know about what the tension was. And on the tensioner here, again, you're gonna tension it up. I believe it's 18-ish pounds or so for a 1-inch deflection. Really, you'll know if the belt's flopping around too much, just give it a little more tension. If it's hitting your metal shielding around here, give it a little more tension. This belt does stretch over time. It's just something that happens. The individual's belts might be easier to do because if you have to replace them, it should be a lot simpler. You could probably just do individual belts at a time. All right, I'll put on the hyperlapse. We'll get this back together and we'll conclude this video after that. Okay, folks, everything is put back together. Putting the belt back on was much easier. Tensioning this up, so feels pretty nice and tight. It's kind of difficult to get this exactly on there. So what I do is I will tighten these up just a little bit till they're snug and use a hammer, kind of hammer this over and then tighten it a little more and hammer it a little more until you get about where you want to be. The drive belt, again, my son helped me. We were rotating it by hand and everything, got it on there. It's on there nice and tight. Then we tensioned up this as well. So everything is in place. Clutch is hooked back up, the connection there. I'll have to make sure I come back, put electrical tape around that so we don't have any water intrusion. This is the old shaft. So you can see lots of movement in there. That should not be. That's a lot of movement. So, I mean, just massive amount of movement there. If you are hearing weird noises on your sawmill, if you're getting a lot of grease out the bottom down here, that could be an indication. But a lot of noises, if you're getting a lot of excessive heat in here, you name it, there could be an issue with the stub shaft. The repair is not hard. It is time consuming if you don't watch and move pieces and parts over, but we've got everything back over. Also, the alignment, so Tommy, go ahead and go on the side here, but the alignment now of everything looks great. That should have been my first indication, like, okay, so this belt right here is aligned very well. This belt right here is aligned. Everything looks great. Yeah, should have been my first indication. I looked at it, I'm like, there's something just not quite right. Anyways, we're gonna let this set up. Tomorrow after church, we'll come out here. We'll get back to cutting everything, and then we're gonna test some new blades. We've got some really cool things coming up. But again, stub shaft repair, it's not hard. Talk to the folks at Timber King, they can get you the right parts and pieces. This really only affects the diesel engines. The gas engines, you come right off the back of the shaft, no issue there. But on the diesel engines, you have this flex plate assembly with the stub shaft and everything. So that any diesel engine, with the exception of the single cylinder, I believe they use a Yanmar, but anything else, or maybe it's a Kubota. Anyways, this only affects the diesel engines for like the 1400, 1600, 2000, 2200, and 2500, and then all the new variants of that, the 1620, the 2020, 2220, and the 2520. Okay, everybody, we are back next day after church. It's been over 24 hours since the thread locker, Loctite stuff was on there. Everything looks good. I don't see any parts or pieces lying around. One would assume that I have it correct this time. So we're gonna go ahead and crank it up, and then we're gonna go ahead and do some hydraulic functions. We're gonna rev it up, then do those hydraulic functions with it revved up, and then we'll go ahead and gauge the clutch and hydraulic functions while the clutch is on there. I don't have a blade on here right now because we're getting ready to do a new video testing a new blade. So I want to get all this stuff running good here, and then we'll go ahead, put the new blade on there, do some final cuts on this black walnut here, and then we're going to cut up some white oak. All right, so let's go ahead and get the sawmill cranked up. My dogs are losing their mind over there, trying to chase after rats and stuff like that. It's a bit chilly this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and preheat her just for a little bit. Let's see if she cranks on the first try. Huzzah! Okay. So it's good. Everything's spinning as it should. Alignment looks practically perfect. Now let's try some hydraulic functions. We'll start with one of the largest functions, which would be the head up and down. Perfect. I'm not seeing the hydraulic belt jump or anything, so very happy with that. Now I can't really do two functions at once, one-handed. I will have to swap over to my tripod. Give me 1 second on that. Let me go ahead and try saw head movement. Everything's sounding good. All right, let's go ahead and increase throttle. Everything sounds good to me. Okay. Decrease throttle, engage clutch. Increased RPM. Yep. I think I'm happy with everything. So what I'll do, so we just did all the operations I want to do. I do need to show two operations at once at high power. I will use the tripod for that, and I'm going to go ahead and throw on the new blade, and then we'll conclude this video saying mission complete. Okay, folks, very happy. I feel like my fix is good. We do not have any heat buildup. I mean, it's warm, but there's no heat buildup in there. My alignment looks good. That right there has no heat buildup in the pulley. I'm feeling very confident. I do have to tension up my drive belt just a little bit. They always get that little slap to it, and I'll be able to put the cover back on this because I feel confident. We just ran this new blade, which I have pretty freaking tight right now. But we ran this new blade. We're testing it out. We just cut up this black walnut, which is beautiful. This is also going to be in another video. So yeah. So I think we've concluded this video. Very happy. Mill's running. Everything's good. Let's get to cutting. We're going to cut some white oak next and really put it through paces. All right, we'll see you around. Thanks.